Hello everybody, this is the Golden Lock Picker, and something that I realized in kind of a little bit of faux pas on my own. I submitted a video for my green belt and realized for the green belt requirements for Lock Pickers United, you have to not only submit a video of you picking and gutting a lock, but they also want you to reassemble said lock, or at least a lock. It doesn't have to be the same one, and it doesn't even have to be in the same video. So I'm actually going to take that opportunity to use that as a video for my channel. So that way, if you're new to the lock sport community, that you get the opportunity to maybe learn from my mistake, and hopefully you'll remember that. Then when you submit your videos for that, and I believe Greenbelt is the only one that actually requires you to reassemble a lock. The other ones, it's mainly just to gut it if it is guttable. But regardless of that, you still have to show your proficiency of being able to gut a lock of some sort and reassemble a lock. So I figured I would do that with this Ace 527. So we'll go ahead and do that. We can see that I've already pulled the retaining screw out of there, and the plate, and the anti-bypass shim or plate is still there. We got the circlip out, basically everything that should be. We have our cylinder here and our Bible, and then we have all of our key pins. I'll give you a close-up of those, along with all of the security pins above that, and then all of the springs. So in my previous video, you could see I used these tools from 44 Delta to pull those apart, and I'm actually going to use some of these tools to put it back together. So what I'm going to use is this little cylinder holder right here. I could do this on the pinning tray, but I do find that this is kind of nice as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and use that. And this handy dandy pinning tray right here is kind of nice because it actually allows you to put the pins in their correct number for where they're supposed to be. So I'm starting here with pin number 5. I've inserted that. And then pin 4. There we go. Looks like we got that in there. And then pin 3. One thing with these you want to make sure of is you can see they have kind of a beveled edge and then a flat spot. You want to make sure that the beveled edge is the part that actually goes down towards the key. And that the flat spot, as you can see right there, that's probably a good example. That is the flat spot is the part that would be the first thing to come into contact with the security pins or driver pins, if you will. So I'm going to make sure keep putting those beveled edge down. There we go. And if this is your first time doing something like this, hopefully you can use this to your advantage. I'll also leave timestamps for reassembly, so if you guys want to, you can speed ahead. So it looks like we have our cylinder filled out, and I'll actually check that here, and the best way that you can check it is to just take the key, insert that into the cylinder, and what should happen when you look at it here is all of those pins should line up flush with the cylinder. So when you turn the cylinder like this, it should not come into contact with the sidewalls at all, because when it's actually inside of the Bible, if it doesn't align properly, you won't be able to turn this over. So we'll go ahead and leave that right there. And now we need to move on to assembly of the Bible here. Now, my lock, it's very important to probably remember which orientation that it goes into. But some of these, they're really not directional, but I would always make note of that, because if you do put one of these in and it's the wrong orientation, that could affect the ability for the lock to function properly. So that's one thing. In this lock, I am going to start on this end. And then the thing that actually you start with first is not the pins, but the springs. So I'm going to go through. I'm going to put each of the springs in. And the nice thing about doing this is you do not have to have the follower in as you do that. So you can do this fairly quickly. Okay. And got one string that didn't want to go in. So we're just gonna it's gonna be in a pain there. There we go. All right. And if we look down the holes, you can see there are springs in 5 of the holes, and then slot number 6 was vacant. So now that we've done that, the next thing that we'll want to do is take our follower, and how you do this is up to you. But normally when I put a follower through to gut it, I go this way and just pull the cylinder out, because really the end that you use doesn't matter so much, just so long as there's not a gap. So if you have one of these ones that has a gap, just make sure that you turn it over sideways if you're going to do that, to push a cylinder out. Normally I just by default use this side, so that way I don't ever have an issue where springs or pins are shooting out as I'm pulling that cylinder out. But for assembly, I definitely want to use this side, because that's kind of what that should be for, is those little notches there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go past slot 1 there, and then when you look inside, it might be a little hard to see, so I'm going to crank up my lights just a bit here. But what you hopefully will be able to see is you'll see that the notch lines up like this, and then that way it allows you to help stand up those pins a little easier. So that's what I'm doing. And it helps as you try to rest those pins on that sidewall. So I'll put one of these down, and you can see it's kind of just resting halfway in, halfway out. And what I'll do is I'll take my tweezers and gently push down until it's below that line. And you'll see it's sticking up right now, but I'm going to go and push it down. And you heard that click. And now my follower is able to move up another spot. I'm going to do the exact same thing with this spool for slot number 4. There we go. And I just advance the follower from behind, and the follower basically pinches that pin in and holds it in place. Now I'm going to drop number 3 in. It's a little hard to do this behind the camera, and look, I'm going to do my best. Okay. There we go. And now we're down to our last 2 pins. And then what I'll do is I'll drop in my spool. You can see I'm kind of fumbling it a little there. There we go. And basically it sits right in that hole. You just push it down below the shear line. And then as you can see, the follower basically holds it in place. And now we're on to the last pin, pin number 1. And just gonna go ahead and insert that. Push forward. And it should be good to go now. So now at this point, we basically have our Bible ready to go, which is this part right here. We have our cylinder ready. The key pins are in there. The driver or security pins are in here. Now we need to merge those back together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll over my follower. And I want to make sure that when I pull this out, that side with the extra lips is facing up and down. And I also want to make sure when I put my cylinder in, that the gap that you see right here is not facing upward. I'll actually want to turn that like that, so it's faced towards the Bible. And one other thing you can do, if you'd like, is to actually shim that cylinder, just to make sure nothing falls out. And I highly recommend that. But I know for my tools that I have, just because of the tightness of some of these tools from 44 Delta, I can't always get a shim in between some of my cylinders and the Bible. So I really want to just do that without that. But please make sure that when you do that, if you're using a cylinder that is skeletonized, basically one that has slots, that you're very careful as not to drop pins in there, or you could end up stuck. And then now I'm going to insert my circlip or a C-clip on the back here. And then finally, for the assembly part, I'm going to put my anti-bypass plate back on. And what that does is just protect this lock cylinder from being able to be bypassed by a bypass tool that, like a lot of American locks, tend to be prone to, especially the older ones. And then I will take my cylinder and press that in, making sure to lean this over to the proper angle. Then I'm going to take this retention plate and put that in. And it's very important to check that the lock will actually operate before you close it. So one of the things I like to do, you do not have to do this. This is something that I do, is I will actually take the lock without the screw in, without the retention pin in there, and actually close it and hold that plate in and stick the key in just to make sure that the cylinder will actually work. And I turn it over just to make sure it's going to work, because if it doesn't, I can always pull this out. If it doesn't turn over and I've screwed it all together, well, kind of hosed. So now that we know that that's going to work, I'm going to go ahead and turn that back. And while the shackle is open, I'll pull that key out. I'll look in here and make sure that the Bible is leaned to the correct side. Just push that over. Now Now that I know that I have a clear shot, I'm going to put my retention pin in. Take my retention screw, screw that back in, and hopefully if we actually hit the plate, looks like it may not have hit the plate. Yeah, it doesn't look like it did. Again, we'll drop that back out. Try that one more time. It must have gone off to the side. There we go. And what I'm doing is I'm back threading it until I hear it click. And then I turn to the right. And the reason I do that is to make sure I don't cross thread the bolt or the screw. And then before I close the shackle on this, one of the things I've noticed is sometimes if you over tighten these retention screws, you can actually get to the point that the cylinder doesn't turn over smoothly. And like you can see that right here, this thing is really stiff. So in that case, I just go in here, make a very slight adjustment. We're talking like maybe 1/8 of a turn, if even that. And then I'll pull the key out, put it back in. Okay, that's a little better. And maybe just about 1/8 of a turn, maybe a little less. And that feels a lot better. And now I feel good about that. I can close the shackle. There we go. It's like we've got a good lock right there. Everything's reassembled. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You guys tell me what you think of lock reassembly, if there's extra tools or other things you guys prefer. I like these tools I have from 44 Delta. I feel like they're really neat. You can kind of choose your own colors for that stuff. I also have some of the other ones from Sparrows, and I've used those. But you guys just tell me down below what tools you guys use, and any tips or tricks you'd like to share for the community. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks. Bye.